Hi, everybody. The cameras are on. I'm hoping that I'm gonna try my best to keep myself covered up here. You guys, I'm at home and I very rarely wear clothes in my house. Okay? So the fact that I have on this tight ass shirt should be enough to keep everybody satisfied. Because normally I would not have on these clothes. I'm going to give you guys a moment to come in to the live so that I can go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming and good morning to you as well. I like to tell you guys that there's nothing wrong with saying good morning. I know that we feel like it has something to do with death, but a huge part of life is death. And so there's nothing wrong with saying good morning in the morning because there is a lot that is good to mourn the death of certain things. So, good morning. Good morning. Hopefully, all of the old parts of you that no longer suit your life have died off in your sleep and you have awakened to a new existence. You are no longer the old person that you used to be. You're now a new being in the light of a new day. Okay? And so every time you wake up in the morning, you are mourning the death of your old self. You're mourning the death of the things that you have released, the things that used to serve you, or maybe not so much, and allowing the lessons that you learned from those things to feed you and to make you happy. Okay, so or to teach you lessons. So it's extremely reasonable and necessary to say good morning. Okay, so there are enough of you in here. Thank you for joining. My name is Reese Roberts, and this is Entertain the Thought for those of you who have never been here before. This is a podcast. I record the audio for it, but I do the broadcast live so that you can see me and you can join in and participate in the conversation, and we can actually make this a dynamic discussion. Excuse me. I don't think I have any water anywhere. So, you guys, this is about social structures. Today's topic is going to be very largely based on those things that have been created by man and the things that we don't necessarily understand as being within our power to create and to destroy. And so there's a very important nature about consciousness and about man that is duality. Because we have dual nature, we have the ability to do and to undo, to say yes and to say no, to go up and to go down, to build and destroy. And what I think should be noted about our social structure is something that we don't necessarily conceive very often, but it is very conceivable. And it's also very useful to conceive it or perceive it in the proper context. And what I'm talking about is social structure. Okay? Social structure is something that was largely, or something that is created by man. And the point that I'm making by this is so that we can all conceptualize in our minds that the same way we created social structure, we're also able to destroy it. Whether we do that consciously or unconsciously, or I should say subconsciously, because your subconscious mind, according to my new readings, oh my goodness, I think I have fallen in love with this book, which is called The Metu Neter. I am definitely intent on reading all 3 volumes of it, and I want to really encourage you to do the same because I'm in the first 7 pages. And it has already elevated my understanding of that which we call the subconscious mind. And so this is something, in Divinity Mahat, if you want to join in the conversation, please, comment, or you can even call in. You guys, my telephone number to call in is 770-629-3341. If I get a call, you guys are not going to be able to see on Instagram. Okay, only on Facebook will you be able to participate in the phone call part of this live broadcast because the calls come into my cell phone, which is how I'm recording to Instagram. So I want you guys to conceptualize this. And like Divinity Mod said, it's dual energy that we are dealing with here. And what we need to understand is that we have created as a people, maybe not so much consciously, but subconsciously, we have created this social structure that we are continuing to participate in. There are a few dynamics I think should be noted about this fact because we all understand that we're under an oppressive authority or under an oppressive culture of people who have had us under the impression that these social structures have always been in place, that these social structures are necessary, and that these social structures are benefiting us in some way. We're under this oppressive mindset that these social structures are helping us, even though they're literally and actively leading towards our self-destruction. So this is the first thing I want to discuss here about our ability to create and destroy. Like I said in the introduction phase, death is a part of life, and this is something that we have to embrace instead of rejecting and resisting it. Because as we build social structures and as we learn how to operate them, then we have to study the outcomes of what is happening within the social structure. We have to see, is this structure actually working? This is how engineers do their job, or architects, so to speak. You have people who are social engineers. You have people who are economic engineers. You have people who are business engineers. And they have to basically make the assessment of what's happening in society. Is it working? Is it doing what we asked it to do? Or is it malfunctioning in one way or another according to the mission and the goal that we have particularly set for this structure or for this system? I participated in a panel discussion last night talking about conspiracy theories, and one of the things that continuously came up was the idea of systematic organizations and structures that exist to govern and control our society, our social structure. So the key element or the key functionality of a system is to continuously create the same, or to continuously manufacture or produce the same outcome. No matter really, I can't say no matter what the input, but based on specific input. And that's the reason why we have controlled social structures, where we're not just building the social structure that we want or one that is actually suitable to us, but rather what we're doing at this point is we're building a social structure based on very invalid and unreliable information that's been disseminated to us as a culture by a specific group of people who have a very specific mission, which is the reason why they've allowed this information to drive the evolution of our social structures as it has. We know for a fact that social conditioning has everything to do with the way that we govern ourselves in this society, in this social structure, even on this planet, because America, the people on the North American continent are not the only ones that are under oppressive authority. Okay, and you know clearly I'm doing authority because we know that there is no real authority with the people who are in this position of being the oppressor. So I want us to really conceptualize about our power here to create and destroy. How do we have the power to destroy a system that we did not necessarily create? This is important because I want to give you a very real life example of the way this works, sort of conceptually, about the construction and the destruction of social systems. So let's take a car manufacturing company or warehouse. They are all on the same assembly line producing the same car. Let's just say right now Ford Explorers are being manufactured. So before anybody's able to work on this particular Ford model, this Explorer model, they must have all of the raw materials that go into the creation of the vehicle. They must have the raw materials to feed into the systematic production line of the vehicle before they will actually produce the vehicle itself. This is common sense. But what happens when you do that with people and you don't do it with raw materials that you're putting onto an assembly line, but you're actually doing it with information that you're putting into the assembly line of the human brain? Science will explain to you that humans operate a certain way in their minds. We have a production line here, and it works the same. And one thing we have to know about our human tendencies is that it is very systematic. The ways in which humans process information and the way in which we create ideas, the way in which we create matter into this universe, it all is governed and maintained by the same power. It operates the same way. It is systematic. And this is what our oppressors know about us, and the reason why they've been able to sort of oppressively force us to create a system that is not in our best interest, because they were able to manipulate the input. So if I tell you that you are creating a Ford Explorer model, okay, I put you on the assembly line. You don't know anything about the raw materials that's been given to you or that are being given to you. All you know is that you have a set amount, a very controlled amount of materials that go to your production, and you must come out with some form of a vehicle at the end of your assembly line production phase or your system. So let's just say we alter this a little bit, because we know history's been altered and our raw materials have no longer been put together so that they will produce the Ford Explorer model that we are expecting to produce on our assembly line. So I'm completely in the dark that all of my production managers, all of my warehouse managers have decided that they don't want to produce a Ford Explorer anymore. What they want to produce now is another, I don't know, a Yukon, a Denali, I don't know. They want to produce something else. So without telling you, they start to change all of the materials that they're giving you to even start the production phase in the beginning. Okay? Then you start to get to working on this assembly line and things dysfunction. Even though you might not know that from the very beginning. You might not know that you're failing at making a Ford Explorer. You have no idea that you're failing because you don't know that your materials have been changed. You don't know that your people that are governing your production, they have changed your materials, and now when you go to get to work and make it, you're frustrated. Everything that you're trying to do is faulty. Everything that you're trying to do is farce, because what you started off with is not the expectation. What you started off with is not what it's going to take for you to reach the end of the line. And so this is what we have to conceptualize about our society, okay? Society has been under the impression that we have been producing things that will help us to thrive and flourish as a nation or culture of people. But we don't know that the people who have been in this fake position of authority have been altering and changing the materials that we would normally create this harmony, this health, this peace, this unity, this sharing and bartering, this oneness with each other. You understand? They changed the things that we would normally be creating all of our good faith with. Okay? So when you have the knowledge that all of our social structures have been created, think about social structure. Think about the political system. Think about the education system. Think about the medical. That's medical already. I always forget my lists when I start talking about lists. Think about, let's see, the economic system. Think about how, what history and systems of religion. Think about how all those things are affecting currently the output of society. All of these systems were created to let's just say religion. Religion was created to make a person upright, to make them upstanding, to make them righteous, to help them learn how to know themselves and love others. What does religion actually do systematically as a structure? What is the output of religion? The output of religion is that you become dependent, is that you outsource your power as a god to another. Bye. Get out. Get out, Shahid. Bye. You lose the ideas. You lose the ideas of what you're supposed to actually be doing when you're learning something like religion. You don't have a full understanding of what this output should be in all truth. So what you end up doing is faltering. You're failing consistently at this output. You know that you want to live righteously. You know that you want to live a healthy life. You know that you want to have money and your resources and your basic necessities or bare necessities taken care of. But systematically, this is not happening. Why? Not because you're not participating in the social structure. Not because you're not participating in the system. Not because you don't know the system or what you should be doing. What is happening is that everything you've been given, everything you've been taught, everything you've been led to believe is not conducive to what you're trying to produce as a society. If we're trying to produce unity and oneness as a functionality of our society, then why is it that everything we do is divisive? If we're trying to unify, we should conceptualize a problem there. There should be something that says we need to actually change what's going into these systems and structures, because what we're getting out of them is not the expected result. We cannot continue to assume that is something wrong with us. At some point, we have to recognize that it's not us that's causing the social structure to fail. But what it is how we're conceptualizing the social structure. It's how we are allowing ourselves to contribute in the social structure and thinking that the social structure is a fixed part of our society. It is not. What it is I want to call it what my husband says all the time, an inanimate object. It is an inanimate tool that we use to be able to, like I said, to operate in this society. But once we recognize that the social structure is not working, then what do? Do we try to reinvent the wheel? Go back into trying to make assessments of what we did wrong instead of reassessing our beginning point, our origin? All of these structures, all of these things that we've created, and all of the things that we participate in, they're all movable. They're all changeable. But because our oppressor does not want us to see these things as something that we can change, the simple fact that someone wrote a Bible, someone wrote the, the Bhagavad Gita, somebody wrote the, the Islamic text. I can't even think of the name, the Quran. That was written by somebody. It was a systematic form of belief. It's systematized. Yes, it is. But is the system effective? Is it creating unification? Any of the religious texts. Isn't religion supposed to unify and teach love and teach peace? But yet on the other end of that social structure, the other end of that social system, what are you getting? Division, war, death, dysfunction. Don't we know that we can recreate that? Don't we know that we can figure out what's not working about our religious systems? Recreate what it means to be religious? Don't we know that we can redefine things that exist in our social structures? Where we're no longer depending on the thing that we created to allow us to live, even if it's not working. But we can conceptualize in our minds that, okay, clearly we created a system that's not working. So what do? We go back to the drawing board. In all reality, we have all power to go back to the drawing board and to figure out and pinpoint, like an engineer, specifically where society has failed, specifically where the output does not match what we thought should have come out based on what we were putting in. If I'm constantly trying to make a pizza, but all I have is the ingredients to create a cake, I can't be confused when I come out on the other end with a cake. I didn't have none of the materials to make a pizza. So this is something that needs to be conceptualized so that we understand we can create things and we can also destroy things. We can also alter them. We can also innovate. You understand? Which is pretty much the same as making alterations. Innovate on where we are. What's happening? What are we putting in? What are we getting out? What are we doing in the middle of that? What are we doing in the meantime? How are we producing these results? Because social structure is something that is of the world. But when you think about where the social structure came from, it came from the spirit. Everything in your mind, every thought, every idea, every conceptualized train of thought carries you to a place in the near future. It carries you to a place where things exist before they actually exist in this realm. So when you think, okay, this social structure was created because of, somebody decided that this was the right way to govern society. So they created these structures. Don't you conceptualize that whoever thought of these social structures could have been wrong? Whoever thought of the way the political system works? Whoever put it together as it exists right now? Because you understand that government is a part of ancient Kemetic science. Government is not anything new to this planet. And it hasn't always been a failure. When our people were doing it, it was perfectly fine because we had it down to a specific science. And that specific science was systematic and it worked through and through. Prehistoric culture, Kemetic history tells you that there are social structures that work. Things like bartering, sharing, living in harmony with the land. That's a social structure. And it worked because we collectively did it together. On the input, we knew we had raw materials. We had things that we could cultivate. We knew we had talents to work the land, to perform alchemy with the natural elements around us. We performed this alchemy. We came up with all kinds of things on the other end of that system. We worked with our hands. We worked with our minds. We worked with each other. These things worked. We did have rulership. We did have government. We did have judges. We did have laws of the land, ways to settle things. But I'm going to tell you one thing. It worked. Then when the knowledge gets disseminated to a culture that is hell-bent on being self-destructive, they recreate and, the system that we already understood naturally, intuitively, by way of our spirit. And we operated through, our government through the spirit. These people come and they figure we don't need the spiritual concept of government. We need the physical concept of government. And what we want to do is dominate and control the minds of people, which is what government means. And they took it all the way literally. Because in the spirit, what government means is to govern your own mind. This is on the responsibility of the individual, not of the state. And this is how we understand that our social structures have been corrupted. It is a corruption to have a government that is involved in your personal life. It is a corruption to have a government that tells you how you should live and what you should do and when you should do it and how you should do it and who you should do it with. You understand? That's a corruption. To govern your mind means to control your own mind as an individual, a part of a larger collective. If you're going to socialize as a part of a social structure, what you understand is that you are an individual that is a part of a whole. You fit as an individual as a part of a whole, your society. Does it mean that all of society can tell you what to do, how to do it, and when to do it? No. Our ancient Kemetic structure knew that every man is for himself, because only the man can tell himself what is best for him. No one can judge what you should be doing, when you should be doing it. You ever had somebody tell you what to do and you like, where'd you even come from with that? I don't even know you. How are you telling me what to do with my life? It's the same thing with the government. They completely overstep boundaries when they say, okay, we are the government and we're going to separate the church and the state. Separate the church and the state for what? If they came together in the first place, why would they be getting separated? You understand? The separation of church and state means that you're actually separating the man from the spirit. You don't separate the society from the spirit of the whole of the society. Culture thrives based on what people inside of the culture believe in, what their goals are, what their desires are. When you delight yourself in the spirit, the desires of that spirit manifest. That's what it means when it says delight yourself in the Lord, and you'll be basically gifted all the desires of your heart. It's because you must get to a point where you're understanding your thoughts are actively manifesting into your reality by way of what you're doing consciously and subconsciously. You don't have to necessarily be aware that you're manifesting these things. Going along with it, not understanding it at all, just going along with it subconsciously is what actually puts you in a position to where you are now systematically creating an output that you didn't even have any you don't have any knowledge of what the input was that is coming into you. And because of the lack of knowledge of where all this came from, it's going into your natural systems of production. You understand? You get an image coming from your enemy, and the image coming from your enemy tells you that religion is for you. So you go and you study the religion, you go and you try to embody all of its concepts, or you try to understand all of its concepts, and it's going through your personal systematic understanding where you are learning, basically. You believe that you're learning right things. You believe that you're learning things that are righteous to your life or your way of living. But because we have no idea that these things are not actually for us, that the religious system has been there to create this separation of things that should be joined together, then you automatically, but subconsciously, and I believe automation and subconscious activity go hand in hand. Subconscious mental activity, it is automated. It is automation because you're not conscious of what you're automatically believing in and causing yourself to do to actually live things out. Let's just say, I'm gonna give you a good example of what I mean by this. Let's just say you grew up in a household where your family exposed you. Well, let me not say it this way. You grew up in a family where your father, let's just put it this way, your father was a murderer. And you had all knowledge of your father's actions, that he was murdering people, that, he was just basically like a Jeffrey Dahmer type of guy. And you think that because this is your dad, and you think he's a rather good guy, that everything he's doing is righteous. You're processing all of his activity, and then eventually You start murdering people because you think this is, your job to do, like your father. He says, I murder people because they're not pure. I murder people because they're evil. You have this input going into your personal systems of understanding. And the next thing you do, you subconsciously, you believe this. And so you start out in your life looking to do as your father. You're looking to create this same system of righteousness that your father has obviously been living off of. So you go and you start to murder people. Does that make it correct? Does that make it for you? Does that make it good for you or your society? The fact that you're out there murdering people because that's how you picked it up? No. That person who's out there murdering people because of the examples that they were given, they have every responsibility. They have every expectation, and it does them as much good as it would anyone else to root out that which they learned from their father or through their conditioning so that they can actually do what is righteous by themselves and the rest of society. This is the same thing conceptually we have to understand. We are getting to a point where we must recognize that things we were taught, okay, the things that we were taught are not conducive to the spirit by which the spirit that we're trying to manifest. We're trying to manifest a spiritual existence of unity, of love, of compassion, of acceptance. You understand? Building things. But everything we do is contrary to that. So we have to understand this system. It's a three-part system. You have the materials of the input, you have the systematic processing of the work, and then you have the output. We must study each component so that we understand what is a part of our psyche here. What are we creating? What must we destroy in our understandings so that we can create this balance, this harmony that we are looking for in our output? You understand? I agree with you where you said it's built from subjugation, and I don't know what serfdom means. Doesn't it all follow suit? Yeah, we are definitely subjugated. And this is the reason why I said this is the input that we're getting. Our input is coming from a place of subjugation where we're being subjected to oppression. And so again, we must analyze all three parts of our working system. The first part of the system comes from a place of subjugation. But I want to tell you, even things that are subjective are still objective, meaning you can still object. You can still say, this is an objective quality. This is an objective system. This is an objective state of being. I can clearly resist. I can clearly destroy it. I can clearly recreate it. So there's no reason for us to fail on the output side when we have the full ability to understand, to learn, and to systematically recreate that which we began with in the first place. So if I use my same example, using my car manufacturing, the production line, if I recognize that I'm not creating a Ford Explorer and this is what I'm actually trying to create, I can go back to the very beginning. I can look at all the materials that I'm putting together and I can say, well, this doesn't actually look like a Ford Explorer door. This doesn't actually look like the Ford Explorer engine. This doesn't really look like the tires that go on the Ford Explorer. And because I'm looking at my systematic production in the midterm between my input and my output, I can now trace back again. And I can say, well, where did I get these parts from? If these parts are not creating the output that I expected, I must, of course, like I said, you go back through the assembly line. This is called reverse engineering. You go to the middle part and you look at your pieces. What are you doing? How are you putting these things together? How is it working? You understand? Then you go back and you say, well, these don't look like the parts that would actually create a Ford Explorer. So I have to go back. And then you look at your input. What are these raw materials? Where are they coming from? How are they getting here? How am I getting these things when I clearly have the mission and the task to create a Ford Explorer, but I have all of these Denali parts? And then you know from that point, where to go from there, how to create from there. You know what steps to take. If I didn't get these from, let's just say, my manager, you know, pushed the wrong button, I know I'm going to go to my manager and say, hey, brother, I don't have the right parts. So it happens that your manager is you. When it comes to the creation of things, you know what you created in your mind. You know what you created by your free will and intention. It's not a secret. It's not a secret. So we have to get to a point where we're understanding that our social systems are created by ourselves. And to, who is this, New Money 914? I started this 48 minutes ago. So if you are lost, it's because you are late. I go live at 11 a.m. on Monday and Friday. So I'm going to try to give you a quick recap talking about social structures. I'm talking about the creation of things by way of our conscious and subconscious mind. The things that we are aware that we're creating and the things that we're not aware that we're creating. But making ourselves more aware of what we're creating by observing, by looking at our systems, by looking at the things that we're actually doing by way of observation, so that we can see if something is wrong with our social structure, meaning the output is not what we expected. We can go back through our social structures and look at the systematic production of these outputs. Where are these things coming from? Why are we creating the way we're creating? And what can we do to innovate, destroy, change, and rebuild that which we intended to have as an outcome? So if our social structure right now is creating division, it's creating war, it's creating, this environment where the earth can't even thrive. We're destroying things. When we have the all intention and every will about ourselves to contribute to life, to contribute to things that are natural, to contribute to things that are for our good, you understand? We know that these are the things that we want, but we're not getting what we want because the things going into how we're producing our desires, it's not conducive to that which we're trying to produce. We're trying to produce things that we don't have the raw materials for. Okay? We're trying to get to a place where we are in this state of heightened ability, heightened spirituality, heightened intuition, heightened, energetic vibrations. We're trying to get to a place where we are uplifted in our spirits. But what is it around us that is actually uplifting our spirits? Everything that's around us in our social structure right now is for the degradation of our spirits. Largely. You do have your circles where you can find things that you can do and things that you can get into that will uplift your spirit. But what are we doing that enough to where it's affecting our collective output? I can't say that we are, and it's kind of sad because I would love it if we actually could produce what we're trying to produce. I would love if we could get to a place where we are experiencing joy, where we are experiencing what it feels like to be unified with our brother and our sisters, where we can get to a place in our society where we're not competing against one another in this system of capitalism, where we're not comparing ourselves to one another by way of this individualistic thinking, where we're not tearing each other down just to make ourselves feel better about who we are. This is not the way that nature intended. This is not the way that we want to exist. So how are we going to get to that place? How are we bridging the gap? How will it change people's financial problems? Well, financial issues have everything to do with social structures, because the economic system is nothing but a social construct. If we were to be looking for financial remedies as a culture, now I'm not talking about any particular group of people or black people or white people in particular. What I'm talking about is the structure itself. If you look at the social structure of what do you call it? If you look at the social structure of the economy and how it fits into our social interactions with each other, the capitalism that we're suffering from, the need to pursue a financial gain when everything that we need is already provided for us on this planet. We're looking for financial gain. I mean, think about it. Our financial system could be restructured to the point where it solves all of our financial problems. But do we have the intelligence to conceptualize how the economic system was even created in the first place? Again, social constructs. These are things that were constructed by a particular group or set of people. The economy was constructed. How was it constructed? Somebody learned from our ancestors, our ancient Kemetic history, that the land is abundant, infinitely abundant with natural resources. You understand? We have economic systems that have been set up to exploit those natural resources that are abundant and there for the thriving of humanity. But then you introduce the Caucasians, the Jews, where they get to a point that they feel like they want to dominate. So how do you dominate people? How do you get people to need you? How do you get people to subject themselves to your hatred? How do you get people to feel like everything that you have is what they need? You start taking everything that they need. If I want you to buy your food from me, I'm going to take all the food from around you. I want you to come to me for your food. So what am I going to do? Let me tell you what Caucasians did. They recognized when they got here to the indigenous lands, indigenous people, meaning us, black people, who they call Indians. Okay, they call black people Arabs. Everybody was Indian to them if they was over here. They call them Indians. They get over here and they realize that the people were thriving and living and using bison as one of the main natural resources to keep their society going. They used every part of the bison to feed themselves, to clothe themselves, to construct things, making shoes and all kinds of things out of the bison. Caucasians come over here and they realize this. What do? What they do? Start killing the damn bison. You understand? Exactly. And I'm glad that you said that, because exactly what they do. They put you in debt. And then there's something that needs to be recovered. You understand? Something needs to be recovered. So if I don't want you to have any natural resources for yourself, I'm going to lay claim to everything that is considered a natural resource, including you, because you have natural resources that exist from the land to keep society going. The electricity that we use is natural. The water that we use is natural. The food that we grow is natural. You understand? The things that we use to adorn ourselves, the gold and everything else, natural materials, iron, copper, zinc, all the things that we use to create things in this society, the wood, all these natural resources. We create all kinds of stuff. Even the animals. We use the animals to create stuff, to eat stuff. We do all kinds of things. So when a person lays claim to that and says, no, I don't like society thriving and operating like this, where you just go and get what you need out of the land. You work it for yourself, and then there you got it. If you want to build a house, you go cut down a few trees and you build yourself a house. There it is. Now, I want you to come through me. So I'm going to say, now at this point, like I said, they went and killed all the bison when the indigenous people were living off of, killed them. Next thing you know, these are starving people now. They're starving. Europeans come over with food and blankets. And the rest is history. Y'all know that story. Dead. Because this is a social construct. These people didn't like how we were living by construct, by our social systems in the beginning, where the theory was to share, was to live off of the land naturally. That was the structure that we had. They wanted to subjugate us to their ideas of power and manipulation and authority. And so they gather up everything that we're using, kill off all of our resources, or either hoard the resources to themselves and then say, okay, now my doors for business are open. Shaheed, get out, please. Please get out. I can't work while you. And so then they tell us that, okay, now you have to come to me. I'm starting a business. If you need to eat, I got all of the food that you need. Here you go. And what happens then? Now you're dependent upon me for your livelihood. By construct now. By construct. By social construct. If you don't come to me, you can't eat. How do we conceptualize these things and then rebuild them? And you're right, that is what's basically happening in Africa and all over the world. You have to know that it's not just natural resources that come out of the ground. We are natural resources. Haven't you ever heard of the whole entire field of human resources? What you think human resources means? The same way they make money off of the natural resources that, come out of the ground. You one of them. If your skin look like mine and your hair nappy like this, you one of them. You are a natural resource and you are being used to make money. Shaheed, get out. You're being used for you to make money the same way the natural resource that come out of the ground is for the purpose of making money. You're a human resource. Your life is not your life. Everything that you're doing is for the purpose of maintaining this social structure. You are participating in whatever is being told to you about maintaining life. If you want to eat, you must work in order to eat. You don't grow your food. If you want to eat, you work to eat. The middleman is something else, ain't it? Natural mind says, if I want to eat, I'll grow some food. Not in this social construct. If you want to eat, you take your ass to work. Somebody gives you the money, you understand, for you to go and eat. If they don't give you the money, then you don't eat. You still don't get no food, even if it's off the land. You understand? We don't have the conceptual understanding of what's happening here. Because if we knew that there is nothing that anybody can do to stop all of humanity from living off of the planet, living off of nature, then people could get mad and start going on a killing spree like they do in all history, throwing a temper tantrum like a 2-year-old. But let me tell you something about these people. If they killed all of us, they would die too. That's what a parasite is. These people are parasitic in nature. So if they kill all of us, they die too. They can't kill all of us. First of all, that would take a lot of guns, a lot of bullets for them to accomplish something like that. So we're living in fear of our own nature, of our own ability to rebel and do what comes natural to us, because we have been systematically, organizationally conditioned away from our nature, away from our true selves. If I recognize that something is wrong, then I can change it. But we don't recognize that there's something wrong here. People are that's just the way things are. We gotta vote. We gotta vote. How else are we gonna get our people in office so that? Oh, I can't stand this whole argument about voting. We got to vote. We got to get some black faces in office. What in the hell do you think a black face in office is gonna do besides simply be in blackface? That's just blackface with a real black face. There's no there's no productivity in the political system. The political system is failing, FYI. The political system is done, FYI. Why are we still trying to hold on to this? Thank you. Thank you guys for liking my hair. Y'all about to make me take it down. um, but in this, and I agree, we do have to teach each other ownership instead of just going to work, because us going to work don't have nothing to do with where we're trying to go. We're trying to go somewhere completely different than where we are right now, and where going to work is going to take us. Because if we go to work, not for ourselves, what's happening there? We're going to work to complete an agenda that is not ours. Do you know that every company that exists on the market, they all have a mission? Did you know that? That companies have mission statements, okay? They have mission statements. What is the mission for most companies, huh? Most companies, they have, they want to make money. They want to make profit. They're not looking at how they're serving humanity. They're not looking at all of the repercussions of what's going on and who's going to get what and how. They're looking at survival. These companies are there to make profit. They're not there to sustain humanity. We're here to sustain humanity like we've been doing, but they're not. And so we got to stop looking to them to have that best interest at heart. That's not their interest. These people don't care about maintaining society. Maintaining society? I'm trying to maintain these pockets so I can maintain minds. Don't you understand? They are the ones who promote and thrive off of individualism. Again, this is not a system that was created by us. Individualism comes from them. We believe in collective living. Do you understand? Y'all, I just completely upgraded. Did you see how I just took that hair down? Honey, I didn't even press my hair. I just blew it out. Y'all, I'm sorry, I get a little bit of the world sometimes. When I start looking cute, you know what I'm saying? When I start looking cute out this thing, I look all right. I'm not gonna fool with y'all, but I will say this. We must begin to conceptualize what's happening on a grander scale. Look at this thing from a global perspective. Right now, we have a car that's being driven by a 2-year-old. The car being our planet, which is actually a spaceship. Theoretically, our bodies are spaceships. Or I should say our bodies are space suits. And this planet is a spaceship. So we have to understand that we're not of this world. We're just in it. We're just in it. Okay? And we have the ability to say how we exist in this field, in this planet. You understand? We have the ability to say, I want to operate and create this way. I want to functionally destroy something that's not serving me. Do you understand? Something that's not serving you. If you get a disease or if you get sick, that's not serving you. You recognize that it's making you sick. So what do you want to do? You want to destroy it. Sometimes destruction is necessary. When something is not serving you any longer, you destroy it. This is what we have to understand. First of all, we have to lose our attachments and our affections to that which is destroying us. Our social structure is destroying us, you guys. Our social structure is the thing that is causing us to live in this desert, this famine of the spirit, because the social structure is there to separate us from the spirit. You understand? Yes, this is, when we recognize that our country and our social structure has been set up by a private corporation. I said this last night on the panel discussion I was a part of, and I want you guys to scroll down on my page to find it. It's a 2-hour-long panel discussion talking about conspiracy theories. And I talked about one of the things that really come to mind all the time about our social structure is that we are, how do I say this? We're in a place where the social structure is killing us. And so we have to get ourselves buckled down to see All right, if this is like I said, not working, it's not working. What do we do? How do we tear this down? How do we get to a place where it's not another person's manifestation, but it has been alchemized, okay, alchemy, into something that I can operate, something that is actually for my good? We can do that. We can get to that place. We can easily say, this is for me, this is not. We just have to get there. Okay, somebody. But no, we don't need to vote. I don't think we need to vote. I don't think we need to vote, my friend. Voting is not helping us. I'm going to be very clear about that. Voting is not helping us. The political system is not set up for our betterment. Now, I will tell you what. Oh, I forgot. Dang, I completely lost my train of thought when I was just talking to y'all. Oh, my goodness. I was going to say, the way our social structure is set up with the government, okay, is that we have a private corporation. Oh, I completely lost my train of thought. What just happened? I never do that. The government corporation, which is a private for-profit company, just like Target and Walmart, right now they don't have any competition. That is what we need to be doing. Like my brother said, we need to be teaching ownership instead of being the workers. Please listen to me when I tell y'all this. It's getting ready to be exciting when I say it. It's going to be exciting when I say it, okay? Think about this. Think about it. A private corporation, just like Target and Walmart, these places compete with each other, right? Because they're corporations and they compete. Target is the competition of Walmart, right? So what happens when you recognize that there's a private corporation that's in the business of providing government services? Excuse me, can you please be quiet? Gosh, my baby love to make all the noise when I'm trying to, deliver my message. But anyway, like I said, government services, you guys. Government services is the business that this private corporation is run by. Let's just, for the sake of clarity, I'm not going to call the corporation what it's actually called, which is the United States Corporation. USC, United States Corporation, is truly the name of our nation, of our government, the United States Corporation. Oh, excuse me. So when you think about this conceptually, you have a private corporation, which is a business now. And that's the reason why Trump is the president of the corporation, because he sits on a board of the corporation. You know that corporations have board of directors. When they are incorporated, they put shares on the market to be traded for their value. And that is essentially the country. But if you think about this conceptually, you guys, first of all, since when has a private corporation been able to have citizens? Does that not sound like an anomaly to you? That's definitely an anomaly. When would you ever go into Target or Walmart and say, I'm a citizen of Target? I know it may feel like it as much as we go in there. I'm a citizen of Walmart. How can you be a citizen of the United States when the United States is a corporation, which is for profit, a business that is on the market? This is common knowledge. We're not citizens of the corporation that is called the United States. They tell us that we are, and we believe it because it's a social construct that was created by man to get us under the understanding that we're being controlled and governed in our minds by somebody else. We don't need a government. We don't need somebody to tell us when and where and how. Like I said before, this is not for us to be controlled by somebody else. I do have a podcast. I'll tell you about it in just a second. It's on my website, www.reeseroberts.com. If you go to reeseroberts.com, you'll see a tab that says blog and podcast. And that's what I'm recording right here. So again, the social construct, you cannot be a citizen of a corporation, you guys. You can't. So what are we doing with that? You going to vote? How would you go inside a Target and vote? Would you go inside a Walmart and try to cast a vote and tell Walmart, I need you to operate like this with your policies and procedures? Instagram is getting ready to go out, but I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to you guys in just a second.